Let's learn about button actions in UIKit and how that compares to SwiftUI. Hey, what's up? My name is Michaela Karen. This is the second lesson in the UIKit for SwiftUI Developer series. Today we'll talk about button actions, so when you tap a button in SwiftUI, what it looks like, and then how that compares to UIKit with Storyboards and Programmatically. Let's get started. Here we have a basic SwiftUI button. So as you know, when we have text here, it'll say tappy on the screen, and then when we tap it, it will say tappy tap. We can open the preview if we click Command, Option, and then Enter. This automatically opens the preview, or you go to the canvas there. We hit Resume. This is what it looks like, but even if you play this, this doesn't actually do anything in the console because the preview doesn't do that. So we have to run it on the simulator. So this is what it looks like. But if we go ahead, click Run, and we run it on the iPhone 13, we see it says tappy tap, and when we tap on it, it says tappy tap again. So that's, that part. Let's look at how to do this in UIKit with Storyboards. I am going to open the project from the last lesson, so if you haven't seen that yet, go check out the card above and look at the first lesson to create the 3 projects that we'll use throughout this series. This is the project with the storyboard. Let's go ahead and open the storyboard. And you can move around using 2 fingers on the touchpad to move this around and zoom in and out. Otherwise, you have to use your mouse where you hold shift to zoom left and right. And the little buttons down here to zoom in. So let's add a button. So Command Shift L will open our object library, or you can click the plus in the top right here to open it. And then we want to drag and drop a button into the storyboard. We need to set the constraints. So let's first center it horizontally, so in the middle of the screen. So we click the Add New Alignment constraint and Add Constraint. So you see the line here, it's constrained in the middle. And let's tap this to constrain it. And this will constrain to its nearest neighbor. So if we change that top one to 30, this is red, meaning it's activated. Otherwise, these are not activated when they're not actually a solid line rather than a dotted line. So if we say 30 and then add constraint, you can see that the constraint that was added is 30 from the top of its next neighbor here. So let's do that, and then also let's do leading and trailing, and this will be leading and trailing to the view that it's in. So let's say 30 and 30. Sure, and then let's do a height of 44. So you can see all the things that we've changed right here, and then we add 3 constraints, but you can see that this one is no longer active because it's already been set. So it is showing you what's happened since we opened this window. And we click Add Constraints. So what is this warning telling us? Fix leading and trailing constraints with a center constraint may cause clipping. Oh yeah, so because we had the center constraint, we didn't need to explicitly do leading and trailing. We could have just set a width. So I could just delete the leading and trailing and then make a width, or delete the center. So let's just delete the center. So if we click on the button and then click the size inspector, scroll all the way down, we see center X, we just click on it and click delete. And there we go, now we don't have that error anymore. So if we run the project now, we will see the button on the screen and it just says button. There we go. We see the button and it just says button, and it acts like a button, so it does that highlighting, but it doesn't actually do anything yet. So let's stop the project. Let's change this from saying button. So you can double click on it and then change the text here. Or if you tap on it and then, why is it blurry? It's weird. You tap on it and then, or click on it and open the right pane again, but instead open the attribute inspector and scroll to the top. This is the text for the button. So let's say tap in storyboard and then hit enter to make it take effect. And then we wanted to select, so this is the font because the last one we did the title font, so let's do that for here. So if we select font and click Title 1 and done, this is now a Title 1 button, similarly to the one that we made in UIKit. So now we have to connect this to the code. So to do that, you have to do this super weird thing. So hold Option and click on the view controller and it'll open it in like that side view, or if yours is set differently, it'll open like in the bottom. And then you can see this moved around a little bit. So this little like window right here, you can grab the like highlighted part of this to move this around, which is kind of easy, or you can move it like this. But let's clap this again so it's easier to see. So what we have to do is add an action. So we have to connect our storyboard to the view controller. We do that by holding Control, dragging the button, and doing that. So you click on the button, and you can either click on it in your storyboard like this, or actually click on it over in this menu thing here. I don't know what this is called. The document outline is what this is called. So click on the button, hold Control, and then drag it over to the code. And you want to make sure you put it right here so it's inside of the view controller, not outside of it. And you can see the connection we were making is called an action, which is when you click on the button. It is from the view, it is in the view controller, and we want to call this tapped button. Type is any, or it could be UI button because that's what is directly sending it, but it kind of, for this, it doesn't matter. The event is touch up inside. So you can see there's a bunch of actual button actions you can do. So if you were to drag or touch, drag, exit, so you would click in on a button and then drag your finger out and then lift your finger, that would be that, I believe. But we are going to do touch up inside, which is really a normal button click. And then the argument is a sender, which is the UI button, and click connect. So there we go. We have connected this together. So now we have a new function that is an IB action. So IB is for interface builder, and it is an action. And then we have a function with the parameter is that sender. And now inside of here, if we print storyboard tapped, we run the project, we can now tap the button, and then you see storyboard tapped is showing up. So this has one big caveat of this that you will 100% run into when you are using storyboards in UIKit is if we say, we don't want to say tapped button. If we wanted to instead change this to, let's say, tap BTN, and then let's run our project again, because all we did was change the function name. If we run the function and try to tap the button, we will get a crash. So this is a big long message that says unrecognized selector send to instance some address. And this says probably the same thing. So what happened? And we are inside the app delegate for this too. So what happened here is our button is no longer connected to the function. So if we were to click on the button and right click on it, this, and expand this, it says touch up inside is connected to tapped button, but we changed the name of the function in our code, so this connection is no longer valid. Like this is hard-coded right here that says tapped button. We have to remake this connection. So to do that, let's delete the one that's here, click on the X so you see there's nothing there, and then you can hold Control, grab the button, and drag over to it. You can see, I don't know why I didn't do it initially, but this is no longer a filled in circle. It's now like an open circle, so that kind of tells you that it's not connected. But as you saw, when I changed this, it should have immediately kind of changed, so Xcode sometimes like kind of forgets. But you can see there's a little plus here. We can really just click on this and drag it over to the button. And that's it. And then we right click this and we see it says touch up inside, and then now this says tapped BTN, rather than tapped and button spelled out. And that works. Or what we could have done, if we delete this again, is hold Control and drag from the button over to like the action, and it gets highlighted like this again. And there we go, and now it is connected again. So remember, if you ever change the name of this function, you'll have to recreate the connection in the storyboard. Okay, let's now do this, but using Programmatic UIKit. So this means we need to build the button, add the constraints, and do this all over again. So let's do this programmatically. So we'll need to do pretty much the same thing, except we have to write out all the code for it. So let's first make our button. So we have the label on the screen. So if we run the project, this will just say, hello world programmatically. There we go. We want to now make a new button. So let's do let button is equal to a UI button. And we'll give it a type of system, meaning it's like a default system button on the screen. Let's refactor this a little bit, as in you don't want to put everything in view.load like this without like using functions. So let's make a new function called setup label, and let's move all of that code into setup label. Oops. And then we need to call setup label because you have to call the functions for them to work. And let's now do private func setup button. So we are going to do almost the exact same thing. So that's what's pretty cool about Programmatic UI is we can copy everything here, paste it, and change what we need about it. So we are not adding the button anymore, or adding the label, we are adding the button. We need to make the auto resizing mask is equal to false. Change the button text to be tap here. But you can see by the error that came up, a UI button doesn't have a member of text. What we actually are doing is setting the title of the button. So there is a function called setTitle. So we want to set the title to tap here for the control state, and a button can have different states as well. So we want to use normal, but like highlighted and disabled could be like if your button was disabled, it could have a certain text, or if it was highlighted or focused when you like actually have your finger on the button, it could have different text. But we want to use just normal, which is what it, normally looks like on the screen. So we want to have different constraints, so we can change these to, we need button, and we want to do it in the same way that we had the last one. Let me stop the project. Where, what was it? Demo, not SwiftUI, the UIKit. We want to have it like this. So it is like 30 from the top, and then, did we put a width? No, I think we did leading and trailing, and then a height. So we need those 4 constraints as well. So we want to constrain the top anchor. So that was how this button is constrained to the top of that label. We use button.topAnchor.constraint is equal to. So it's this long constraint equal to NS layout anchor. And we want to make that equal to the label.bottom anchor, because that would put these right next to each other. And then we add a constant of, I think we used 30. So we do that. Let's do button.leadingAnchor and write the same thing, .constraint, but we want to do the view this time. So we want to constrain the button right here equal to the leading anchor of the view over here. So we need to do view.leadingAnchor. Or just view.leadingAnchor. And I think we used 30 as well. And we want to do button.trailinganchor.constraint. Then view.trailinganchor, except, oh, we need the word constant here. Except now, when we add the constant, we want to use -30. So if we had used 30, or without the number here, it would line right to the end here. But if we added the 30, it would push it further out. But we actually want to bring it in so it doesn't hit the edge. So we have to use negative. And then we had a height. So let's do button.heightAnchor.constraint. So this time we don't want to use an NS layout constraint because we don't want to constrain the height to another anchor. We want to do equal to constant, which gives us a CG float. So that says make the constraint a specific size. And I think we used 44, which is the default height for a button. So let's use that. And let's go ahead and run the app now. And nothing happened because we did not call our function. Make sure you do that. That's important. Now we rerun it. And there we go. It says tap here, but we haven't connected the action, so nothing is happening. And we can also make the font bigger as well. So let's do button.titleLabel.font is equal to UIFont.preferred font. So it's this preferred font for text style. And that title one is like a text style. So if we do that and rerun the application, we'll see now it's a big button. But now we need to make an action. So what we do is there is a specific function on this button called add target. So it associates a target object and an action method with the control. So what this means is we want to add a target, and it says target is any. So let's choose, or let's write self, because this is sort of asking where is the target going to be, and we're going to make the target within this file, within the view controller, which is what self is referring to. So the action, we have to add at selector, and it says Objective-C method. So we'll write that in a second. And then we have that for, and it says UI control event. So we type a dot, and we type touch up inside. So these are the different UI control events that we can have. And that was similar to what the storyboard said. So the function is this Objective-C method. So we have to do at objc func, and let's call it tapped button, like that. And we can copy it and paste that right there. And write print, I was gonna write print tapped. So we have to have this part and the Objective-C part. I'm not exactly sure the actual like inner workings of why, but part of it is like, it's still talking to Objective-C in some way. So once we have this, and we run it, if we tap here, we see tapped print in the console. And there we go. That is how you create a button, a button action and create a new button all programmatically without using the storyboard. So there we go. We have created a button action, what it looks like in SwiftUI, in UIKit using storyboards, and in UIKit with Programmatic UI, meaning there are no storyboards and we wrote all of the code to do that. So what else do you want to see in this series for comparing how SwiftUI works versus how UIKit works with storyboards and programmatically? Comment below and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.